moving through the mountain range. Finding forces.
I did want to enter one oddity that I had experienced on mushrooms, and it was at a concert. And my girlfriend at the time and I were laying down on the grass. We had been, like everyone else at the concert, watching the show and observing the people, and nobody's looking up. We sat back, laid down, and looked up, and there was a big black slit that opened up and then closed. And it was like, I looked at her, she's like, oh, I saw that. I was like, well, I saw it too. Like, oh my God, it was real. What was that? Okay. And it seemed to be like we were being observed by something extra dimensional that opened a space-time portal. And
yeah, just a casual portal.
Nobody else was looking. Did it? But the thing was, we both checked each other to say, did you see that? And we both did.
Yeah, that makes it more tangible. For sure.
It was confirmation. That's what it was.
I'd really love to think, like, once you think you know something, if you really want to get very stuck in your beliefs and be like, nah, I know this to be true, I know this to be a fact of this place, a reality, you should probably take some psychedelics and see if you still believe it after.
Right. It's the odd thing is that experience was kind of one of the stranger things I've experienced on any psychedelic. Is far less potent than a lot of the other things that I've taken. When I've taken large amounts of LSD and had pretty wild experiences, but nothing extra dimensional opening up in front of us. That was different. I wanted to open that to what was your wild experience in visual, anything supernatural-ish realm that you've seen, Zane?
There's so many. Let me think. I feel like even before, like, taking psychedelics, I've had, like, kind of weird, like, somewhat unexplainable experiences, shared, thankfully. So it's like, oh wait, did you see that? Okay, yeah, you saw that too, just like you. So it made me feel less crazy.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go into that. It was like kind of boring to talk about, but in terms of like the psychedelic ones, even after doing DMT and exploring that realm and like seeing the entities, taking other psychedelics like LSD, I feel like kind of brought me back to that space.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to see them for the first time on LSD, and I wasn't before. I don't know if the DMT made me more receptive to them, or maybe I wanted to see them secretly and then they were willing to show themselves. But yeah, they were literally the same, like, shapes. They were made of like the same colors. And when I closed my eyes, it literally looked like I was on DMT again. Completely different compounds. One is semi-synthetic or synthetic, one is in our body already, but they both produce the same entities and images, which was fascinating to me. They didn't really tell me anything interesting, but just their presence enough was captivating. Yeah.
Do you ever go into an experience with specific questions?
I have. I've actually found myself doing them when I feel more so lost and I don't know the right questions to ask. It's when I know what questions to ask, I feel like I'm in a better place. But these times that I've experienced them, I feel like I was just open to an experience. I didn't really know what I needed, but I knew I needed something. So I was just like, okay, just show me what I need. Like, it wasn't a specific question, but just like, show me what I need to see.
I like that.
Something about frequency and expanding frequency like prisms showing light, but we can't see all the spectrums. But then somehow through that expansion from the psychedelics, all of a sudden, just like you're able to see all the colors, you have a wider perspective field of different light, right? And that's where you start to see these entities and these spirits, is what I call them, because all of a sudden you're receptive to see their light or the absence of light in their shadow, whichever it is. Anything else you both want to add in here?
I guess, what is your most ideal outcome for the future of psychedelics, Zane? Like, what would be the most ideal situation, or like the best daydream outcome that you could think of?
Yeah, wow. That's a hard question.
I know it is. It's good to daydream about it, though.
Yeah. Ideally, we can all expand our consciousness in some way as a collective society. So it would be really cool. It would be cool if we all could do that without psychedelics. Psychedelics kind of serve as a shortcut, and people prefer like taking the longer routes, meditation, breath work. But, you know, why can't we just combine the two? I think shortcuts can be fine. I mean, you're going to learn the lessons that you need to learn regardless. Might not be right away, but like they'll come up, especially if you're playing with psychedelics all the time. Like, you're going to get hyper slapped eventually, and you will you will learn what you need to learn. Ideally we just all can get along and evolve and keep evolving and get to where we need to go, wherever that may be.
I love that. Do you think that psychedelics are for everyone?
Yes. I literally just had this conversation yesterday. I would like to think so, because I was literally thinking about this earlier. Like, who are we to tell someone that they can't take a psychedelic? So if someone really wanted to do it, and let's say they had like bipolar disorder, maybe some psychosis or something, and it's like, no, you can't do that. I mean, surely not every single case is going to end up in a negative experience. Like, maybe with the right dose, or with these new like psychoplastogens that are being developed, or just the right psychedelic. I mean, there's so many to choose from. Like, something can be compatible with them. Maybe like MDMA, like if you want to consider that a psychedelic. Like, there's no hallucinations there. Like, they can still get inside they can be more inside their body, maybe work through some things. Like, I don't think we should bar anyone from taking them.
Right.
Is it necessarily good for everyone at every given moment? No. Like, even us who've taken psychedelics dozens, hundreds of times, like, it's not okay for us to just do it every day. Like, it's when the time is right for a person, that's when you should take it. But like, it's not good to just keep doing them, or just give them out to everyone and be like, hey, like, you're all gonna have the same positive experience, because that's not the case. So I think everyone could do it, but just given the right preparation, the intention, and all of that, and just being able to hold the experience after the integration, then they can do it. But they have to be ready first, with all those in mind.
Yeah, I like that point of view. I love teaching people the concept the dosage makes the poison. And we think of it as being physiologically poisonous, but the reality is that dosage can also affect your mind. So I think right dosage for everyone, and I usually take the stance, I'm not here to tell you that these are right or wrong for you. I'm here to provide you with information, and that's a decision that you can make on your own. But even like reading on the Reddit forums, I mean, there's tons of people on the schizophrenia forum or the psychedelics forum who talk about using psychedelics with schizophrenia. And I would not recommend anyone do this, but I do know someone who has used it to actually, if you will, like get more in touch with his schizophrenia. I guess when he has taken these things, he's gotten more clear about what he feels like he's hearing and things like that. So again, that's not something I would ever recommend to a person, but there are people who do it. And so it's funny that, yeah, I think there's this like black and white thinking of these people can and these people can't, but as we all know, psychedelics are more mushy than that.
Right. And even like schizophrenia itself, it's just such a complex diagnosis. I mean, it's like slapped on people that we just can't figure out, kind of. And we don't even really know what's happening in their mind. So it's hard to even just be like, hey, this is good for you, this is bad for you. And this is kind of far out, but like some may even view them as already like receptive or open, considering that they're hearing voices, seeing things in a different culture that may be interpreted completely differently than how it is in the United States, for example, where it's like, okay, this person is ill, they're seeing and hearing things, like we need to treat them. Maybe their hallucinations, maybe, who knows if it's actually hallucination, is embraced in a different culture. And those people end up becoming like the medicine man or the shaman who is hearing voices and like communicating the messages that he or she is being given to the community. So it's super complex.
This person that I know is not from the United States, and everyone in his family views him as a seer. And when he has done ayahuasca and other psychedelics, he has gotten much more in touch with what he's experiencing and is much like a shaman in a sense. They see it as he's communicating with something else. But I have been told in the United States that this is an incredibly offensive thing to say or suggest. And we should never be approaching anybody with a mental illness and telling them facts about their mental illness unless you are a professional. So I think that's where it comes in. And I've never told somebody like, are you sure you weren't just like, your third eye is super open? It's probably just ghosts. Like, it's not helpful to anyone in that situation. But yeah, even in the United States, I've been told that that's offensive to speak out loud. But it's very interesting that when I've traveled outside of the country, this has been a more accepted concept. And I love your take that we really don't know. We love to think we know so much about all this and we have it all figured out, because the reality that we don't have it figured out is kind of scary. And so it's easier for us to think in our own head, like, oh, we know and we understand some of this to some degree, but you're right, with schizophrenia, we don't fully understand a lot of it. So yeah, I love your take on that.
And something interesting I learned, I think literally earlier today, was that, I hope this is true because it would be so fascinating if so. I just read it online somewhere, so I didn't fact check it right after, but it said that no person who is born blind has ever been diagnosed with schizophrenia.
I did read that also and looked into it. I wouldn't say I looked into it enough to actually claim that I have fact-checked it, but I do believe that that is true. I think I read enough about it that I was like, oh, this is a real thing, which is very interesting. Because we relate it kind of to, it affects the, wait, maybe I'm mixing it up with bipolar. Or maybe it's both of them, affects the calcium in your cerebrospinal fluid. And that's why like lithium works for bipolar, because it's very chemically similar to calcium, and it kind of like takes over some of the, like bipolars like low calcium. I think they have also found that in people with schizophrenia. I might be talking out my butt on that one, but then, you know, if it is true that nobody who is blind has ever been diagnosed with schizophrenia, then it must also have something to do with either something ocular or nerves in the ocular system, or some nerve in a certain part of the brain that controls vision, or otherwise. And maybe this does get into some third eye stuff. Who knows?
Right. And maybe it's just a human specific problem. Like, are there animals with psychosis? What is it like? They can't communicate to us, so how do we know? And I feel like if I looked it up, it would probably say no. I feel like I've read that before, but what does that even mean? You know, how are we gonna diagnose an animal with anything?
Absolutely. And animals are much better at regulating their nervous system as well. So how much of psychosis is within the brain and how much of it is a nervous system issue or a hormonal imbalance from a nervous system safety issue at its core. Like you start making adrenaline and then you make more cortisol, and those are hormones that throw off your melatonin, can make it hard to sleep, can also affect your sexual hormones, all of that. So yeah, I think it's quite interesting.
Wanted to throw that back at you, Josie. What is your sum total greatest outcome of psychedelic awakening in the culture?
You know, I would love to see it become available to everyone in a safe way. And it almost sounds crazy to say it out loud, but so I was just doing some research on alcohol. I think the number is 3 million. Alcohol causes 3 million deaths directly and indirectly in the world yearly. As you guys know, there's no known deaths from LSD that are direct, only indirect, and there's very few and far between, and same with mushrooms, right? So this is like people harming themselves on it or harming another person, and that's very rare to happen. But we accept drunk driving as just a thing that happens all the time. We don't shame our family members when they do it. You know, we're there to bail them out of jail, and it's a normal thing in our society. So I don't think it's that crazy at this point to say that most drug deaths, unfortunately, in 2026, come from people getting things that aren't the things that they wanted to, or not having education on dosage and how to take care of themselves during an experience. So I would love nothing more than to see pharmacies where you have access to these things, that you know that it's clean, you know that there's nothing else added into it. Then this kind of gets into like the marijuana thing too with the dispensaries. People are like, oh, I love my homegrown craft marijuana, like craft beer. I would love to see an option also for craft drugs, but just knowing that those are more risky because they can have different things in them. But again, the energetic piece of they were made by somebody. They weren't manufactured by like a hardcore pharmaceutical company, but they're made by like individual chemists who really love it. Again, it's more of a risk. It could have anything in it, but you could also go to the brewery down the street and get beer that has an adulterant in it, right? Because people are just making stuff. They're allowed to make alcohol, but chemists aren't allowed to make drugs, right? And there's a couple different reasons why chemists aren't. Some of the compounds that you're using are dangerous, or you can blow your house up, or other things like that. But I would love to see more accessibility, more education about safety, and really making it safe for people. It's interesting to me that we provide people with like clean needles and things like that, but we don't provide people with clean drugs. If you're going to provide someone with a clean needle, you might as well make a drug, tax it, and provide someone with a clean drug, in my opinion. We're going very far in certain ways and not in others. And I also don't want to see this move too fast, though, because when anything moves too fast, people freeze up and we go backwards in time, the same way we did in the 60s. I think things moved a little too quickly and people froze and we moved backwards. But I would love to see it be accessible to people. I would love to see from a young age being taught emotional regulation techniques, being taught more about our emotions in public schools, because these are the things that you really come up against when you have psychedelic experiences. And I think that if we taught more people how to have healthy communication and good relationships with the people in their lives, I think not as many people would really need psychedelics in the end. Might be one of those things you do a couple times when you're 18 and it's really cool and you see some shapes and patterns and then you're like, that was great. I can live a fulfilling life with purpose that doesn't have anything to do with these substances. And they've seen in places like Portugal and Amsterdam, when they legalize stuff, kids use it at a much later age. So again, I had a Dutch foreign exchange student who lived with me, and he was like, yeah, most kids don't smoke weed until 18 or 19. When I went to school, it was 13.
Yeah.
Everybody was looking to get their hands on it. It was this taboo. People were attracted to it. Like you said, Zane, people can do it through breath work. You can do it through meditation. You can do it through emotional education. You can do it through practicing how to have good, communication, relationships with people, relationships with yourself, becoming aware of your beliefs, becoming aware of how they dysregulate your nervous system and how they impact the way that you move through life and how you feel about yourself and how you feel about others. So I'd like to see a whole mix of all of these things, becoming more educated on everything, understanding how we move into the future with all of this stuff. I don't know. I would love someday for there to be like a Six Flags equivalent of psychedelics. Maybe not as commercialized, but I think something like that would be cool.
That would be very cool. Well, I did want to chime in on a point on people with disabilities and cognitive function disabilities, autism, schizophrenia. I worked with people with disabilities in the behavioral modification field, young and for about 6 years. And, people with schizophrenia and different mental disorders are usually the first that they try these drugs out on. So I wouldn't be surprised if it does creep into, they are kind of a test base of people, honestly. So I wouldn't be surprised at all to see people with schizophrenia and certain other disorders being, trialed on some of these things. Because you brought something up, Zane, about, going there and then coming back on certain psychedelics. And I just wanted to say, I have a perspective of, I'm not sure you really come back. I've always had a sense of you kind of integrate who you are now, because you're never going to be the same, right? There's a part that is permanently changed. And how are you going to take that part of you now with you? Is the trial. That's the integration. Is now you're different. Get to know the new you.
Right. There was recent research where it said literally what you just said. Like after one dose, I think of psilocybin, higher dose, the brain was like different forever. And like when people read headlines like that, that's kind of scary because they're like, oh wait, like this will change me forever. But the question is it changing them in a good way forever? Neutral, bad? I mean, it's up to the experience, maybe, up to them. So,
well, I think they show in the neuromatter how the synapses are firing. You have a wider spread of firing of the neurons versus just handling in frontal lobe or different sectors. They're crossing through the lobes, and you're getting that hemisync going on, which I think that ultimately is kind of true integration, is when you get hemisync, left and right lobe, that's the dream world and the physical world merging. That's magic realm of existence.
There was a woman who had Alzheimer's, and they gave her 5 grams of mushrooms. And before she was nonverbal, very despondent, almost like catatonic, and very like sad when she did express. And afterwards, she was verbal and was showing positive emotions. So this was a woman who had not spoken for years, and she was speaking. And, you kind of get to the point where you're like, she obviously can't really consent for herself, right? There's no informed consent there. If she is not responding, you don't know how much of what you're saying she's understanding. So someone in her family had to consent. And you kind of reach a point where you're like, is it worth the change, right? Is it worth the potential that maybe she'll be more fearful after, but maybe she won't be? You are not going to come back the same person. You absolutely have to integrate. I love that. But again, risk versus reward, right? Is it worth this risk potentially having back a piece of yourself or becoming more neuroplastic or having your brain interact in a new way, right?
Well, this is where, I keep bringing up this, vetting process and how do you jump both feet in? I mean, that's not for everybody. And I love the point that Zane brought up. The DMT pen, right? That's a way to try. Well, let's see if this is for you. Here's a trial, a very light version of what you're going to experience in a version, but a light way that's short. And if you deal with this properly and you feel like you can go further and go a little further, if you feel comfortable, then go. For those who don't have that, let's just jump off the cliff into the pond, because not everybody's ready for that. So I really like that what you brought up there, Zane, because this is something I've been trying to figure out is, I am a let's jump off the cliff kind of person. So I'm like, let's go.
Same.
I realize some people aren't that way, and that experience is the problem because they're not ready. And then they feel like they got pushed off the cliff and it wasn't their decision. And then it's horrible because they're like, you did this to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the narrative and the stigma around DMT itself is so frightening. And that's because a lot of what people hear is, frankly, overdoses. I mean, people taking 50 milligrams 30 plus milligrams of DMT, being shot out straight to the whatever dimension and seeing all these entities. There's no warm up, they're doing too much. They're not even probably measuring how much they took. They're just like, oh, I got this DMT, let me just pour a bunch in here, dab this. I mean, the same thing happened with salvia. People were terrified of salvia, but that's because they're taking 200x, 120x strength. Why not just start with 5x? The smoke shops sell 5x too, and you're jumping all the way to 200. Of course you're gonna have a terrifying experience and then tell everyone, don't take it, don't take it. That was the worst thing ever. If we just fix the narrative by informing people about proper dosing, and so they have a positive experience their first time, then it'll completely change what we hear about these drugs in general, and more people would be willing to microdose DMT for a first psychedelic experience ever. I mean, I've talked to so many friends who wanted to jump into psychedelics, and I'm like, hey, start with this, and they're like, no, DMT, are you crazy? And they wouldn't do it, and the ones who did, they're like, oh wow, that was actually not that bad. And then we would slowly go up, and they'd be like, okay, this is a good point, I'm gonna stop now. But that was great. What's next? And then they would go on to LSD and psilocybin or whatever. But yeah, just informing people, educating them, would help a lot.
Stewards are important because I know permanent fried people. I have some friends that will never be who they were. And I've met plenty of people that wouldn't even know who I was at this point. And, we had good times once upon a time, and now we don't even have the capability of having a conversation. And that's a sad thing to see and to witness in experience of something that for me, was positive. They went too far, and it wasn't anything other than, I think, excess and poor stewardship of them own selves. But whoever provided it to them as well was overzealous and uncautionary.
Were these people who were also repeatedly using it often? Or was this a one-time? Because that's what I noticed with the people I know who are fried. It's an every weekend thing, or sometimes even an everyday thing.
Well, honestly, one of them was a friend of mine who I think already was, he was younger, and I think he may have been schizophrenic. And as you know, it manifests in its strongest form in your 20s sometimes. And it was pre-20s that he had done it. But he took way too much, and as he progressed and got older, it got worse and worse and worse and worse. But he did keep revisiting. But the last time I saw him, it was, I couldn't have a coherent conversation with him. It's pretty sad. On that point, the worst, I don't know if it's a deliriant, but it sure does seem to have the effect of it, is the, what is this that's killing everybody? The opioid.
Oh, fentanyl?
Fentanyl. What the hell is going on with fentanyl that it makes people lose all cohesive thought process? They're just basically, how I see schizophrenia with the people that I've worked with, is it's a loss of cohesion of thought, and they can't really relate reality versus imagination. They can't differentiate the two. So what they think is going on is what's going on. They see it that way, and there's no telling them any different. And it comes in degrees of normality to having an episode. And with people with fentanyl, it seems that they are lost in a cohesive state in a similar way of their thought processes scattered. They don't make any sense. And my thing is, I've seen people come back from it who sobered up and they regain cohesion. I'm wondering, have you noticed anybody who's been on that? Have you dealt with anybody coming? Because I think that's part of what this new directive of legality of some of these substances is about. It's helping people come back from fentanyl. Is a huge push because it took so many souls. So many people are lost in that.
Yeah, I've heard of so Iboga's obviously a big one for opioids. There was even I just watched a video on it. It was some halfway house. They were all it was a sober house, but what they would allow people to do was DMT, actually. And what they were finding is these were people who were highly addicted to drugs their entire life. And when they allow them to do DMT, they only want to do it once a month, but it kind of helped get their brain to kind of reconnect and focus and give them a little bit of drive and purpose to do things in their life. I feel lucky that I've never really been around fentanyl. There was only one experience where I've ever suspected someone was on it, and I would say what you're describing with the mixing of reality and something else, and they're very set in stone, is a form of delusion. And I don't even know exactly what that high would be like or what people are experiencing. And the one thing that I find is that no one really seems to come back from fentanyl and do a trip report. And so I feel like it's this mystery substance to me. I pray that I never come across it, that I never really have to deal with it that much. Because I do see people on the street occasionally who are belligerent or who are, so out of it or obviously hurting and need help. And it's just really sad to see the shadow side of substances that really, all drugs get categorized into this. But I'd love to hear your take on it, Zane. If you know more than me, I'd love to hear that.
Yeah, I have one buddy who recovered, and he was taking a lot of substances, and then eventually he was on fentanyl. And from what I remember, I think his family locked him in a room, so he would just go through withdrawals, and it was really, really bad. But then he was able to get out of it and sober up, and then I mean, I can't even imagine what it's like because I haven't messed with opioids like that. But we went from heroin, which people died from heroin, to Percocets, and then fentanyl. So I can't even imagine what it's like, because that's at the very top. And now there's even carfentanil and xylazine, so it's just it keeps getting stronger and stronger. And I'm just how? I don't even know how people's bodies even take it. It's insane, like the resilience that some of their bodies have to be able to process it for the time that they do. One of my buddies, who I used to play Fortnite with back in high school, he actually gave me my first psychedelic experience, and he's in prison now. He got addicted to what I think was heroin, and he was buying it online, and maybe ended up on the streets and buying it on the streets because I think he got kicked out of his house for a while, and then he ended up in prison. I haven't talked to him in a while. Last time I did, he was asking me for money, and he just got out of the hospital. Supposedly he took a bunch of acid and like had a break, but yeah, going into like back to what you were saying about just delusions, there was a lot of delusions, I think, and it wasn't necessarily the fentanyl causing the delusion, but like these people were unwell before the fentanyl, and then the fentanyl was just the coping strategy for the delusions and just like the disconnect from reality in general. And yeah, it's really sad to see, because I was super grateful that he even gave me my first psychedelic experience. I wouldn't have done acid at 17 years old without him, and now he's in prison for, I think, robbing someone. So he's serving like 8 years.
It's sad to see people who use these things responsibly, and there are people who, I mean, there's so many reasons why people use irresponsibly. Lack of education, like maybe even a lack of self-love, right? Just like you don't know, you don't care. Maybe you have fears of like what your life is going to be like, and you're like, I don't even want to think about all the stuff in the future. Like, I'm just going to focus on the now. Usually these people are hurting a lot. But I think usually lack of education is the biggest. Like, if there's one thing I could stress to every single person I know who takes a substance, it's to always use it with intention and respect. And people say to like use a plant or a substance with respect for the plant, but I would throw that in the garbage and replace it with use it with respect for the plant, and use it with more respect for your body and body systems. So if you feel fine that day, that's your body. If you've used it 3 times this week, that's your body systems. Stop. It's hard on your liver. It's hard on your kidneys. In general, substances are. I'm not even speaking of one specifically. Substances are hard on your brain, your liver, and your kidneys. And if you do not take care of yourself, you will notice it in time. You will end up fried, or you will end up addicted. I think if we taught people to use things with intention and respect, it might make a couple more people pause before they used something that ultimately would be addictive or harm their body more in time. And this is why even like some of the fun party drugs that are considered like anti-addictive, MDMA is kind of like in between. Some people say it's anti-addictive because it doesn't work multiple days in a row. Other people say you get addicted to the feeling. Mushrooms are considered anti-addictive. LSD is too, because you just build a tolerance so quickly. DMT is as well. But there's a couple substances that are and a couple substances that aren't. And if you can start with the ones that, I think a lot of people are not educated on what is addictive and what's not and how those things work. But if you knew what you were ingesting before you ingested it, and you knew how addictive it could potentially be, I think people would pause and maybe think about their future.
I want to say that some things you do to heal and some things you do to escape, and that says a lot of why you're doing it and what its energy is. Because as I keep going back to, is it's all about spirit for me, and that's my ultimate end goal of psychedelics, and what I am hoping would happen out of this experience of the awakening of psychedelics, like this second awakening, is that there is a awakening of the collective consciousness's connectivity to the point that we have a shared consciousness, and the true ability of us to communicate emotion, feeling, and all of these things without having to express it through voice. It's something we already have. It's something that we have lost, though, as a species, I think. And I think the more we awaken through not just psychedelics, but consciousness, period, that's part of that awakening, is that connectivity between us to that collective consciousness is rising and growing, and people are becoming aware of it, I think. Psychedelics play a role in that, though. And that's a big key that I would hope comes out of it, is the great awakening, everybody understanding that we're all connected.
Yeah, I love the to heal or to escape piece. I think that's what a lot of people are missing. And you have to look at why you're doing something. And when you're younger, I mean, oftentimes you're hurting and you're pretty unaware of who you are and the role you play in the world. And so it's more often than not escape, or sometimes curiosity, which I think is fine. But yeah, using those things with intention is big. But I love that take, Elton. That's fantastic.
Well, we're getting to a point where I'm going to be doing a 2-part on this video. So if we start getting to a close here, you have some closing thoughts? You want to go, Zane?
Yeah, I'm just processing everything we've talked about. We've touched on so much. Just to go back to a previous question, I think this is a good way to close it out for my end. And like the ideal world with psychedelics. One step below legalization and the government making and giving out clean substances would be decriminalization, and I'm a huge advocate for decriminalization. I mean, most of these things grow naturally in the ground. There's no reason to make a plant or a mushroom illegal, or like something that grows in your front or backyard. As soon as you pick it and eat it, you can technically go to jail. Like, that shouldn't be a thing. Once we just fix the laws and make possession legal, I think it would remove a lot of barriers that we're seeing now for getting to that next level of consciousness as a collective, because more people would be doing it. There would be more education around it. A lot of people who were afraid to do it specifically for the legal reason, like, I'm gonna get in trouble, or this isn't right to do just because it's illegal, that will all disappear. So we'll see a lot more people exploring their consciousness just when decriminalization is a thing. So I hope to see that widespread federally and not just in a few select states in the United States.
What about you, Josie?
Yeah, I guess my closing thoughts would be get educated so that you can protect yourself and the people around you, but most importantly, so that you can protect these substances so that they can go on to the next generation. Because just as you can use a car to go on an amazing road trip and change your life, or you can run it into a human being and harm them greatly, it's a tool like anything else. It's how you use it. And if you want these things to go on into the future and become part of what is normal as far as healing yourself as an individual and the future of psychopharmacology or otherwise, I think using these with intention and respect and education and understanding how to keep yourself safe is really how we bring it into the future.
Love it. Yeah, I think we're across the threshold of, legality is coming and medicinal use is already become a reality. It comes down to who and how and where. And I really have a good feeling that that's exactly where we were already working on that before the triggers were pulled. So I think we're a little ahead of the curve on this, and exciting things to come in the future. I love the conversation we all had, and I look forward to editing it, putting it out. I think it's going to be a great conversation. I'm going to do it in 2 parts, though.
Yeah.
Love that. And I'm glad to know you're building a course too, Zane. I didn't know who you were on the team before this, but that's super exciting. And yeah, I'd love literally to connect with you anytime that you want.
Oh, definitely, yeah. This was awesome. I am looking forward to part 2 for sure.
Woohoo!
Awesome. Now, do you want me to send you each other's emails, or you can see them on here? I mean, you all can connect. You want to have other collaborative conversation, you know?
Yeah, just link us in an email and then I'll probably get like socials or whatever else you use, Zane.
Okay.
Very cool. Have a great night. Thank you for joining.
Thanks,
Love the
Thank you.
conversation. Good night.